Okay, I have my 2005 PT Cruiser here and had an overheating issue, and I determined that the fan wasn't working and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. So I knew that with the air on that the fan should be kicking on, so my primary place to look was the fan itself. And I took and I jumped a couple of wires with some alligator clips to the motor and determined the motor was turning, but the fan itself wasn't turning. So I'll show you later on how you can connect this to a battery and test your motor out. So we're just going to be working on removing this fan assembly, and I'm going to show you how to get this thing out of here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get up here with an 8mm, and we're just going to get this loose and disconnect it here. There's really no need to disconnect this part at this point, so we're just going to push this off, and we're going to also get this hose right here off, and then we'll pop our housing connectors off, and we'll just get this pulled out of the way. Okay, you see the tabs in the back of your air filter housing. Don't just go to yanking, you can break those. You want to push back and pull it up and off of there like so. Okay, now that we've got that off, we just remove this tube over here, and we can just pop this up out of the grommets and off of that tab that you see right there on the back. Okay, and with our air filter housing out of the way, we're going to go ahead and loosen bolts to our battery and disconnect it and just get this battery out of here. Now also down here you will have this little 13mm clamp, and you'll need to remove that before it will pull up and out of here. Okay, now we've got 3 or 4 rather of these 10mm that you see down here in this battery cradle, and we're just going to go ahead and remove those. Okay, now we're just going to take these 7mm out of this grill. We've got a couple here, and then we've got a couple right over here. Okay, and then we're just going to lift up on this grill. We'll just set it aside. Okay, right here on this center brace we've got a 10mm. Go ahead and take that loose. Okay, we just set that washer and nut aside for now. We're just going to lay this here out of the way. Okay, now we're going to get this 12mm loose right here. Okay, now we come up here and we've got 1, 2, 3 10mm on that side, and then we've got the 1, 2, 3 on this side. We're going to go ahead and remove all 6 of those. Okay, with those 10mm, we just peel this seal up a little bit, and we can lift this up, and we don't have to disconnect the cable. We're just going to kind of set it right there and put something so you're not scratching your bumper up. Okay, so now we're underneath the car here, and we're over here on the driver's side, and we're just going to disconnect this fan. You can see this connector here has the red safety lock. You need to push that, you know, back like I got it there, and then you'll just press on that other side and pull it right off of there. So nothing to that. You can see, you just press right there and it'll pull right off. And so now it's also got a little attachment right there. I guess it went somewhere up here at one point in time, but somebody had disconnected it, so I'm not really sure where it was. It may have very well been right here, I don't know. But anyways, we've got that loose. So what we're going to do while we're down here is this is our drain, and we're going to drain a little bit of this coolant down. We shouldn't have to get a lot, but we're going to have to drain some down in order to get that top hose loose. So we're just going to go ahead and do that at this point. Okay, if you have one of these handy relief valves, you can just pull that up and get it to draining better, or just go ahead and remove the whole cap. But we're not going to take a lot out, because like I say, we just all we need to do is get it where when we disconnect this hose here, it's not going to drain out of us. So we're just going to drain it down a little bit, and actually we probably got it about enough right there. Okay, so we've just disconnected this clamp with some pliers there and pushed it back, and we didn't have to drain much. I mean, you know, you can see about how much I've drained out here. I mean, it's not very much. So we're just gonna take this hose now, we're gonna push it back up here out of our way completely. Okay, so now we're gonna work on getting all of these 10 millimeters around this that are holding this on. Now, probably one of the most difficult ones to get to is the one right down here on this passenger side, kind of in the middle, that you see right down here. And it's actually already gone. Somebody's probably messed with it previously and they didn't put it back, because I've done the same thing, because it's just the most difficult one to get to and you really don't need it. But we've got the two right up here, and then we've got one right down here in the middle. I can point to it right there behind that. And then we got some on the bottom. So we're gonna go ahead and get on bottom and get those first. Okay, so we're down here underneath. We've got one here to the right of this hose, and we got one right here. Like I said, if we look right up here, and I know I've got some glare, the sun, but right up here about where my finger's pointing, there's gonna be one there. And on yours, there'll be one right up here in the middle as well, where those little plastic tabs are. So we're gonna have basically two, or one on each side in the center, and then we've got these two down here that are easy to see. Okay, I've got those bottom two out. So those are 10 millimeters, and then we're gonna look right down here where you see my fingers, my hand pointed right here. There's gonna be a 10 millimeter right there. And I've got it loose, you can't really see it, but it's right in there where you see the little plastic sides. It's hidden right there. We're gonna go ahead and take that out. Okay, now on yours you'll also have one that's gonna be right down in here on this side, like I was showing you. Like I said, you can't see it because that plastic right there is blocking it, but it's right in behind that right there. It's a 10 millimeter. So you need to go ahead and get that. And that's a little more difficult to get to, but it's not too bad. Right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this top one and this top one here, and we're all freed up. And it's still not gonna be real easy, but we'll show you how we're gonna get it out of here. Okay, now I've got the fan assembly completely loose. Now what I've done is picked the radiator up kind of out of its grommets a little bit, so it's kind of got some more wiggle room to it. And now what I'm going to do is just carefully work this fan. The hardest part is getting up and around this, but I'm going to try to get it up and out of here without having to remove any of this intake here. So I'm just going to take my time. Like I said, be careful. And even if you want to, you could put you a piece of cardboard in there to protect your radiator so you're not damaging your fins. Okay, and I wanted to show you how I was coming up out of here. Now I did go ahead and put a piece of cardboard here to protect the fins on my radiator. And I went up taking the thin side and coming up over the spout. And like I said, I picked the radiator up, moved it back carefully as far as I could, and I'm just working it right up and out of here. Like I said, yes, it would be easier to go ahead and remove the intake, but it's going to be even more work. So this doesn't appear to be hurting anything this way, and I've just almost got it out of here, and you can see that my fan is completely loose. So not sure what happened, But we're going to go ahead and finish working it up out here. Like I said, I'm just being careful not to get anything in a bind, not to break anything. And I'm just kind of working it up at an angle and taking it up and out of here. Okay, so I wanted to show you what I've got here once I took this out. This thing has got a nub broken off of it. You can see in here where those are supposed to fit. And this is like the part that is supposed to hold it. You know, it slips under here and it like locks into place. So not quite sure what happened. Somehow this got broke. Probably a lot of excess wobble and stuff because of that being broke. The motor, however, is, you know, still working, but with this being broke, and I'm not so sure if that's supposed to be spinning like that or not. I would think that should lock into place, but I don't know. But anyways, if something comes loose once, you know, as a rule of thumb, it'll probably do it again. So probably I'll just go ahead and get a whole fan assembly. It'll just be better than having to deal with any of this, because it may come loose again. And with this being broke, I'm just I really don't want to put another motor on it. So anyways, okay, so I've got this set up here, and I'm just going to show you how I bench test it. I've got a couple of these wires with these little alligator clips, and I've just connected into this connector here to the middle connection, and I've also insulated this one here, a positive, so they're not bumping and shorting each other there. And then I've just taped that to my battery. And I'll just take this in here. So we can tell that the motor is working, but don't know what's going on with that fan. It's like all wobbling and just in all kinds of bad shape. But that's how you can test your motor out. Like I said, just connect. So if you got the tab that locks right there, I've just connected to the middle, and then I've connected to the one on this side. There's 3 of them in there, and I've just got it connected to the middle, and then the one on the right there, just like so. So anyways, we'll see about getting another fan in here. Okay, so I decided just to go ahead and replace the motor, and this is the replacement part. And I was wanting to do the whole housing, but they're quite a bit more expensive, so decided to do it this way. Now the only thing that I've done is took out 3 of these on the old motor, and it just goes back in just like this, and we line it up. I also marked it to where it come out, and basically this wire just lines up and goes like that, and we put a zip tie right here as well. So I've just got it set in here. It's the new one, and it comes with a new piece like this that goes on here, and it sets down onto this pin. And that, I didn't realize on the old one it was actually broken. That little pin was broken. It's just spinning, along with this nub here being broken as well. So it comes with this replacement piece that goes on there. You do have to reuse this old piece here that fastens it. So like I said, right now I'm just getting ready. I've got my wire zip tied back, and I've just got it set in the way it was, and we're just going to put these 3 10mm back in here now. Okay, and again, this is would be the front of the fan, and then you just set your motor down in there like so. The wire zip ties there, and then we bolt it down with the spindle facing up on this side. And now we're just going to go ahead and set our plastic fan back on and get this clip, which all we do is we set it into place and we just hit it with a screwdriver right there where that square is and knock it down into place, and it should be nice and snug without any wobble once we get it on here. And like I said, when you set it on there, those nubs and indentions will line up with those right there. Okay, now we got the fan set in place. Now we're getting ready to lock it in with our washer there. Okay, and the first thing we're going to want to do is just make sure this thing is not binding and it feels nice and snug. Now the first thing I noticed is that my zip tie was in the way a little bit, so I'm going to have to reorient that so it's not hitting, because we can't have anything hitting and knocking this around. Now I notice when spinning it doesn't seem perfect, but it is nice and snug on there, so hopefully it's going to work out okay. It doesn't appear to be binding or hitting anywhere. So we're going to go ahead at this point, we're going to work on getting this back in the car. Okay, so I'm just carefully working it down in here, and I'm just going to wiggle it around as needed to get it on down in there. So we're just being careful not to bind it. And I also got the cardboard protecting the radiator. And of course make sure that this is facing up so you got it in the right direction. Okay, and just to show you, I mean, this thing will give you the most trouble, but if you're just careful and work it around it, you can get it down in there. And now that we've got it in, we'll go ahead and we'll remove this cardboard. Okay, and I'm just going to start with these top ones here and work on getting them in first to these two locations. Okay, and now I've just gotten the one on this side over here, the driver's, that's in the middle there, that's difficult to see. And like I said, the one over here in this middle part was missing, so I'm not even going to worry about that. So now I have two more, and I'm going to get underneath the car here and get those. Okay, so we're back under the car here. I'm just replacing these two. Like I said, I like to get them all just hand tight before I tighten them down. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten them at this point. Okay, and another thing I've done, because I did move this radiator around, I made sure those two grommets on the bottom were setting back down into that frame there the way they're supposed to. So we're going to go ahead and get our coolant hose here reconnected. And we will replace coolant as needed, because we did have to drain a small amount out of here. Okay, so we're back under the car here, and we are just going to be connecting this wire connector that goes to the fan motor here and relocking that red lock. So I'm going to go ahead and free up my hand and do that. Okay, and make sure you get that fan connector locked in there fully. Okay, so now I've done, before I went to hooking anything back, was just crank the car up, turn the air on, and made sure that my fan is blowing the way that it should. So everything appears to be working good, so I'm going to go ahead and put this stuff back together. Y'all seen how I took it apart, and there's nothing to it. We're just going to snap these pieces back on, bolt them down, and get our center brace in there, and we'll be good to go. And we'll put a little bit more coolant in there to top it back off, since we had to drain some out. Okay, so all I've done is replaced these 10 millimeters. We're setting this piece back in. We've reconnected this stud to this part, and then I've reconnected this sensor and put the nut and the washer on there. And we've tightened this down. And the next piece will get our grill and go ahead and set it back into its slots and get our 7 millimeters. Okay, so now we've replaced our 7 millimeters on both sides, and now we've got to go ahead and get our battery cradle back in here. And we just had, there's probably like 5 bolts on yours. One of these was actually broken, but we've just got some 10 millimeters, and we have to lift this up and out of there and get this back in, and we'll get our air box in. Okay, and with those 10 millimeters tightened, we've just set our battery back in. We're going to go ahead and clamp this, our 13 millimeter, and we'll get that snug down. Alright, so we've got our cables back on, and we're going to go ahead and get our air box set. Like I said, there's a couple nubs, there should be, that go into those rubber grommets, and also this metal tab right here is going to go into that. And don't forget your hose right here. We're going to go ahead and just get this top, and remember the tabs in the back, they have to slide onto those and lock down so you don't break them. Okay, so we've just relocked our snaps there, and we're going to go ahead and get this hose reconnected and get our 8 millimeter and tighten that up. Okay, so we've got everything together, and we got our fan back to working, so hopefully that's been helpful. And like I said, it's these fans are something to really keep an eye on. It can cause a lot of trouble and cost you a lot of money in a hurry, so it's something to really, you know, keep an eye on and check out if you're having any trouble. You know, it could be any number of things, you know, from the relays to the fan to the wire to a fuse, so you just have to kind of go through there and check it out, you know, and just see what's going on. But you know, I knew that mine should have been coming on with the air and it wasn't moving at all, so I focused mainly on the fan, and it turned out that, you know, the fan motor was all messed up. So anyways, hopefully that's been helpful, and thank y'all for watching.